What is it about lasting change that eludes us? How many times have you tried the latest diet, the most recent app, the best programs, day planners, financial tools to find that change that you're looking for? You've spent time, money, energy, you've read, studied, researched, looking for that positive change, only to fall back into old habits, old routines, old perspectives. Why does this keep happening to us? Not long ago, I became acquainted with the motivation ladder, and it has had a huge impact for good in my life. Now I can see and understand why I haven't been able to achieve that positive change that I've been looking for. My motivations were not in sync that would allow me to ascend and to be better than I've been in the past. I'm so excited to share this with you today. Even if you're already familiar with the motivation ladder, I'm going to share this brief introduction and description just so we're all on the same page. The motivation ladder has 6 rungs or steps that range from the least effective forms of motivation to the most effective. Now, what I mean by the effectiveness is not just the ability to create some change in the form of a new action or choice, but the ability to make that new action or choice last. Will it be a fleeting or an enduring action? A quickly abandoned choice, or something that lasts? That's what I'm talking about by effective motivation. From least to most effectively motivating, there is force, fear, punishment or reward, duty, faith, and love. These 6 motivators can be grouped into 2 sections, those that are extrinsically motivated or motivated by outside external influences, and those that are intrinsically motivated or motivated from within yourself by your own will or interest. Before we look at each of the motivators individually, take a moment to reflect on your reaction to the motivation ladder itself. Make a note of any questions that popped into your head during the brief introduction, and consider how different motivators made you feel as they were listed. What resonated with you? Let's get started. When I think of force, I think of my older brothers pinning me down on the couch and holding my eyelids open with their fingers. During the scene in Alien, when that man falls back on the table and the little monster pops out of his stomach, I wasn't supposed to be there. They had their friends over to watch this scary movie, and I begged and begged and begged, please let me stay, please let me watch. I wasn't really interested in watching the scary movie. I just wanted to be with the big kids. And so they said, yeah, you can stay if you promise to watch all of the movie. So of course I promised. I was finally getting my dream to be with the big kids. I was gonna be with the cool kids. And then things got scary and I got a little squeamish and I tried to hide and I tried to run away, and they wouldn't have any of it. They used their superior strength as an extrinsic motivator to hold me in place and force my eyes open so that I would watch what I promised that I would watch. Did force work? Yes. For them, force was an effective tool. They got what they wanted. But did it build relationships of trust? Did it help me to feel better about myself and better about them? No, not so much. But that wasn't really what they were going for. Fear can be highly motivating. When our kids were younger, but still old enough to take care of themselves if they were left alone for a few hours, when my husband and I would leave the house to go on a date or go grocery shopping or run errands, we would almost always leave them with a list of things that we expected them to do while we were gone. This might include washing the dishes, taking care of the animals, finishing some chores around the house, or getting their homework done. Now that my children are all young adults, they've begun to confess that during that time when we were gone, They did absolutely nothing that we had asked them to do until the last 15 minutes when they noticed on the clock that mom and dad are going to be home soon. It was a flurry of activity, just a tornado of motion trying to hurry and get all of the things done. So fear was an effective tool. It did get the job or the jobs done. But were they doing those jobs, those chores, because they saw the necessity, because they saw the importance of getting them done, or simply because they were afraid of our reaction, afraid of any retribution, afraid of disappointing? Because fear is an extrinsic motivator and dependent on something outside to make it happen, they probably never would have gotten their chores done if left to their own devices. And that is why fear cannot sustain lasting change. It requires that outside influence that is causing the fear to do all of the work. Punishment or reward. I think most of us have a tendency to live here for a big portion of our lives, especially the first half. We go to work for the reward of a paycheck. We keep the speed limit to avoid the punishment of a speeding ticket, the fines, and the ensuing increased insurance costs. The things we do or don't do are largely motivated by the fear of punishment or the promise of reward. For this reason, punishment and reward can be highly manipulative. Consider in your own life ways that you use food, money, time, praise, love, even sex as a punishment or a reward. Are punishment or reward effective tools in making a change? Yes. Do they leave everyone feeling great about themselves on the other side of that change? Not so much. Nobody likes to be manipulated, even when we are manipulating ourselves. Punishment and reward are extrinsic motivators, which means there must be some element of fear or promise in order to make that change happen. As a result, that change is very rarely sustainable. Duty is the first of the intrinsically motivated motivators on the motivation ladder. It is closely related to punishment and reward, and most of us have a tendency to vacillate between the two with regard to how our actions and choices are motivated. The key to its effectiveness is a sense of obligation based on what is morally right or legal rather than some outside influence. This looks like my husband waking up on a Sunday morning in the winter, getting up early, putting on his winter gear, and driving out to our church to shovel the sidewalks because he said he would. There's no reward, there's no consequence. It's just that sense of duty, that sense of knowing he kept his word, that he can respect himself and be at peace because he did what he said he would do. Duty is an effective motivator that keeps so much of our society and our lives moving forward. Faith means a lot of things to a lot of different people. Today, when we talk about faith, we're not talking about religious beliefs or codes of conduct. What we're talking about is faith as defined as confidence, loyalty, conviction, fidelity, respect, even hope. When we are motivated by faith, we do things or make choices based on trust, based on the confidence of past experiences. Consider the differences in being motivated by a choice made with faith as opposed to made with fear. Being motivated by faith is highly effective because the fuel for continued action and the continued choice finds its strength deep within us, in our conviction, are loyalty, fidelity, hope, confidence, trust, and those things can sustain it and keep it going long after extrinsic motivators have passed. The top of the ladder, the peak of effectiveness, the highest form of motivation is love. Love is the motivation behind a mother breaking the candy bar that her children gave her for Mother's Day into little pieces so they can all share. Love is the motivation behind sitting quietly, listening without judgment as your loved one cries, yells, or says nothing at all. Love is the motivation behind giving that guy on the street corner with a cardboard sign a few dollars if and when you can. When we are motivated by love, our actions and choices are based in that deepest, purest emotion that we can have. It is highly effective. On the other side of choices motivated by love, everyone feels good. In direct contrast to how people feel after they've been manipulated by punishment or reward, by force or fear, when we are motivated by love, anyone involved is left feeling cherished, acknowledged, and respected. That is why being motivated by love is so sustainable. It's a feeling we want to have, and it comes from within, not from outside of ourselves. Now, the moves and shifts from one rung on the motivation ladder to another are very individual, completely personal. What works for one person may not work for you, but there is one thing that every move from a lesser effective motivator to a more higher effective motivator have in common, and that is intrinsic motivation. So how does a person move on from extrinsic motivation and those least effective motivators to intrinsic motivation and more effective motivators? Here are 3 ideas. The first is to trust yourself to succeed. To do this, you may need to reframe what you define as success. Intrinsically motivated people know that forward is forward no matter the pace. Intrinsically motivated people know that there is success in finishing the race, regardless of whether or not you came in first place. If your current definition of success requires you to be the best, smartest, richest, most powerful person in any room, perfection. Anything less than that is trash. Then you are laboring under a cognitive distortion, a negative habit of thought called all or nothing thinking. This limits your ability to make lasting change and enjoy a fullness of happiness. You know how quickly you can get bored when there's a task or problem that's too easy? And you know how quickly you can get frustrated when there's a task or problem that's too difficult? There is a sweet spot inside each of us where we thrive, called the zone of proximal development, or ZPD. This is the place where a task is challenging, just out of our reach, causing us to stretch and grow. It may even require some scaffolding or some outside help and assistance. It's that tension of being stretched and challenged that keeps us motivated. Find your ZPD, and your intrinsic motivation will surge with the excitement of knowing you can do hard things. The third idea is to focus on strategy rather than ability. In the year 2000, a group of 14 to 16-year-old girls were encouraged to learn to throw darts. They were shown 2 people. One was a person who threw 15 darts perfectly every time. The other was a person who threw the 15 darts, but with increasing degrees of success with each throw. The researchers found that the girls were more motivated by the improving dart thrower because they attributed that success to strategy rather than ability. Perhaps the perfect dart thrower had some innate talent or natural ability that they didn't and couldn't have. Focusing on the strategy rather than the ability gave those girls greater self-efficacy, which means that they felt they had some measure of control. They felt that by using strategy, they could accomplish the task at hand. They found that it was not the image or behavior of perfect dart throwing that motivated these girls to try. Rather, it was the mental process of engaging with the challenges that stimulated their intrinsic motivation. So, instead of thinking if you can accomplish a task based on your current ability, focus on how you can accomplish that task. Focus on strategy. The motivation ladder has become an important tool in my life because it helps me to see the adjustments I want to make in my thoughts, my actions, and my choices so that I am more effectively, more purely motivated, because that is where real, lasting change happens. I would love to hear your insights about what motivates you, about intrinsic or extrinsic motivation, in the comments below. And while you're there, hit the subscribe button. If you'd like to find more insights on positive change, check out the blog on my website, living-happiness.org. If you're interested in individual coaching with me, make contact and schedule an appointment on that same site. Thank you so much for watching today. Until next time, go and be golden.